Barb, do you know everybody that has registered if they're on, or do we have an idea of that? Because I feel like if everybody that's registered is on, then we could potentially get started.
Let me take a look with what Simone sent us earlier. No, not everyone is from
Okay.
the list is on yet, so
Okay.
we might want to make. Oh, wait a minute. So Dave is on. You want me to move him over to be on the panelist side so that if he needs to answer questions, or
Sure.
Dave just get to listen from the audience.
You can put them on the panelists. That's fine.
Okay. There we go. Actually, I think the folks that had signed up are here, Ed, and it's 3 after.
Okay. Sure.
I think to make efficient use of everybody's time that did sign up and that are attending, maybe we should go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Get started.
I'm going to mute and take my video off so that it can just be you.
All right. Thanks, Barb.
Yep.
All right. So I'd like to welcome those in attendance to our public meeting for Alton and Darby Creek Road over Clovergroff Bridge replacement project. A couple housekeeping items, I guess, before we get started. As Barb had said before, we're going to be recording this meeting so we can make it available for later use in case anybody needs to reference it. Also, a couple things on the screen that you can see is there's a Q&A bar. It's on your menu bar that you can ask questions. And at the end of the presentation, we'll answer questions for you that you might come up with. The presentation is going to be pretty brief, just kind of explaining the project and just letting you know what the intent is out here. So you'll be muted for the event, and then you can ask questions through the Q&A, and then we'll try to answer all those questions at the end. And the rest is self-explanatory, I think. So we'll get started here. My name's Ed Herrick. I'm the bridge engineer for Cornell Robertson, the Franklin County engineer. In attendance with us today are Barb Cox, who is the planning and programming engineer for Franklin County, Kaylin Akers, who is the bridge design engineer, Simone Burley, who's our diversity and inclusion coordinator, Carla Marable, who is our communications director, and Dave Dibling, who is our assistant bridge engineer. So a little bit of background on the project, so you guys understand why we're doing this. This bridge is rated in less than satisfactory condition. It's due to substructure deterioration, which means the things that are holding it up have some deterioration on them. And through our inspection process, we determined that it's time to program the bridge for replacement. The existing structure is it's a simple span, which means that it's one span, box beam bridges, which are side-by-side beams that are non-composite. They have asphalt over top of them. Like I said, the substructure is the issue, the abutments, the part holding it up, and that's the reason for the replacement. The proposed structure is a precast three-sided concrete box, and this bridge is going to be widened significantly from about twice as wide as it is now. It's 43 feet wide. We're going to widen it to about 100 feet wide. The reasoning behind that is to accommodate future pedestrian needs. So if sidewalks and bike paths may be needed in the future, this bridge is going to be able to accommodate that when that type of infrastructure comes through. So we're not building the bike lane or the SUP at this time because there's no plans for that, but this is future development dictates that this is a potential for the area, and so that's why we're building to that. This is just a location map of the proposed project. The roadway there, so as you can see, it's just south of 70, north of Fetter, just north of Fetter, on Alton and Darby Creek Road. I'm sure most of the people in attendance know where this is at, and that's why you're in attendance. Completely within county right of way. So there is no municipal interaction with this bridge. Brown Township and Perry Township are involved, obviously. Those are the surrounding townships. We'll need to acquire additional right-of-way on the east and west sides of the road. So I'll move on to some other stuff that'll. Can you guys, Barb, can you still see my screen? It just disappeared on me.
Yes, I can see it.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. You came back.
Okay.
All right. Is it zoomed in too much, or are we good here? For whatever reason, it switched on me.
So the screen I'm seeing is still the overall project location, the zoomed out version.
Okay, give me a second. It says my screen my screen share is paused, but I can't figure out how to unpause it. So give me a second.
There you go. It's probably easier to stop it. Yeah.
Try it again.
Yes, so I can see it. I know you haven't made it full screen yet, but yes, that's the more zoomed in one.
How are we doing now?
Yep, you're back at the beginning slide.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. All right, so this shows you an overall view of the project limits. It gives you a footprint of the project, basically. And what you can see here is the cyan line or the blue line that looks like a box with some little legs on it. That is the bridge that we're proposing. Again, significantly wider than what the existing bridge is. The existing bridge basically ends at the roadway edges, as you can see the roadway running through there. As part of this project, we're extending a southbound right turn lane, across the bridge. The bridge will now incorporate 3 lanes of traffic. So that's one of the reasons for the widening. In addition to that, as I had mentioned before, the widening is to accommodate future pedestrian needs, shared use path, and sidewalk. So there's a couple colored lines on here. The green line is basically our construction limits. And the purple line that's on the outside is the proposed right of way that we're going to take in order to be able to build this thing. A little bit wider than the bridge. And just so you know, the reason why we do that is so that we can get into maintain the structure. Basically, right of way is an easement for us in order to maintain our facilities. So that's the right of way that's going to get incorporated into the project in order to build a bridge that's twice as wide as the one that exists out there now. Going to the next picture, this is a potential future cross section for the bridge. What this is showing is the actual width of the bridge, but all these facilities aren't getting built at the time. This is showing a potential future shared use path, which is that it says potential future SUP. That's on the right there. We're not building it with part of the project, but as I said, we're building the bridge to accommodate this for future infrastructure that we assume is going to get built. The roadway itself will accommodate 3 lanes. You can see 3 11-foot lanes on the roadway. There is 5-foot shoulders with a 1-foot buffer. This will allow for potential future bike lanes as well. If these happen potentially prior to the shared use path getting built, much farther north on Alton and Darby Creek, there is bike lanes up there. If the bike lanes don't get utilized, these will be utilized as wide shoulders for safety. And then on the left-hand side there, there's enough room to accommodate a sidewalk in the future. This is a rough project schedule for what our intent is out here. The engineer's estimate right now on this is roughly $1.1 million to replace this structure. We have several things on here. The thing that you're probably interested in is construction, which is right now budgeted for summer of 2023. So a year from now, a little shy of a year from now. That basically concludes our presentation. Typically with a public involvement meeting, we have exhibits that you guys are able to walk around a room and see when these are in-person public involvement meetings. Sometimes we find it a lot easier to do ones that are virtual meetings because it's easier for people to get to them. And so with that being said, I'll leave the screen exhibit on. I'll scroll back to the screen exhibit and I'll give you guys time to ask questions if you need to ask questions. If someone joins us during this time with questions, we're happy to answer them, and we're also happy to quickly go back through the presentation again if necessary. So with that, I'm going to flip back to.
Hey Ed,
Yes.
We've got questions in the Q&A. I'm going to read them out to you, and I will type your answer when you say it to you, just so we have the record of it.
Sure.
The first question was, how long will the construction last?
How long will okay, so typically on a bridge like this, the road closure is probably going to, because it's so wide, because it's wider than typical, we'd probably say 120 days. I would hope for 90 days. But we're again in stage 1 of review on this right now. So we're pretty preliminary in that, but I would hope that 90 to 120 days would be somewhere in the window of when we would try to get this fully constructed in.
We'll do a full closure rate.
And this will be a full closure, correct? And actually, I'll let Kaylin maybe chime in on this one. I don't know have they done we haven't done any type of look into doing part with construction on this.
No, we have not. It's been only a full closure that we've looked into.
Yeah, and just to let you know, so because that potentially could cause another question, the reason to consider part with construction is because of poor detour routes. If there's not a great detour route, then there's a reason to consider part with construction. The reason why I say that is because part with construction is significantly more expensive, and it actually takes a lot longer to construct. So we get a better product, we get a shorter construction time, and it's more cost effective to build it with a full closure. So those things are taken into account when we decide that.
Ed, there was another kind of a follow on to that. evidently the intersection up at Fetter and Renner Road have been under construction. Do we
Mhm.
know anything about that project, and if this will have any impact on that? I can't imagine it would if we're doing this next summer. Do you know?
Yeah, no, so I don't know what the construction schedule is for that one. I mean, that's something that we'll vet as we move through this. And just to let the folks know that are on this call, schedules shift a little bit nowadays. The supply chain is a little bit funky. So, if that project got delayed and it would impact our detour or impact our construction, that would be something that we would look at, as we get into like stage 3 of design here. Hopefully, no, it would not impact us. I know that I don't know, but I think that the construction that they're referring to is part of a development, and they're doing an intersection improvement up there as part of the development that's taking place. Part of this development that we're doing down here, or part of the construction that we're doing down here, this widened roadway cross section with the southbound right turn lane is, has a direct correlation with the development that's taking place up there. This was a requirement of the developer to help pay for this southbound right turn lane. So in addition to that, we are studying the need for what is it, a westbound right turn lane also on Fetter Road coming on to Alton and Darby Creek.
So Ed, one of the questions, I want to make sure I answer this correctly. Mr. Schweitzer had the question about the southbound right-hand turn lane. I think it's a left-hand turn lane, isn't it?
It's a left-hand. Yep.
So
the other lane is the other lane is a straight or right, and then the center lane that you see there is a southbound left turn lane.
And we're lengthening it to accommodate the anticipated additional traffic from the development, right?
Correct.
Could you go back to the slide with the schedule? We had another question about the start of the project and the completion date.
Mm-hmm. Did you have the question up, or they just asked you to go back to it, Barb?
So the question was, when is the projected start of construction and completion? And we have that. So start is
summer 2023 is the start of construction. So again, we're in stage 1, so it's hard to say exactly what the completion date is. But like I said, if we start early summer, a lot of times in this, it doesn't always work out this way, but what we shoot for is when school is out, that's when we do construction. If we can fit it all in within the summertime, it works out better for everybody. So, our intent would be to start in early June construction. And if we're within that 90-day window, then potentially we could get it done, prior to school starting, or at least butt up to the end of it. We take into account the fact that we don't want to affect school on both ends. In other words, we don't want to affect the end of school, and we don't want to affect the beginning of school. So if we determine as we get later into design that it's going to take a little bit longer than the time we have to do it in the summer, then we'll either only affect the end of school in the end of the 2022-23 season of school. So in other words, we'd start it maybe a little bit earlier than the beginning of June, and try to end before school began in August, or we'd start after school was out in June, and then we'd affect the beginning of school in August.
So we have a couple folks that are concerned about just that whole coordination of there's quite a few projects going on, but like on the Renner and Fetter, Hilliard, Rome, kind of on the north side of the freeway. And I'm assuming we'll coordinate everything with what we know of projects that are going on at the time.
Right. Right. I don't have those. And again, I apologize. I don't have those schedules for those projects. But yeah, as we move through design, we don't push for, we do coordination with not just internally within projects that are happening at the county level or at the development level, but with the municipal level too, to try to coordinate as best we can. So we're not, so we try to inconvenience the public as best we can. In other words, if it's we won't overlap detour routes. We try not to put additional traffic onto specific roads that would have 2 detour routes going on them. Those things are accounted for. I wish I could answer your question on the north development. I don't have information on it. So, but we could get your information, and we can probably post that maybe, Barb, as additional information after the fact, for people that are wondering.
Yeah, that was a question, is why, if they could have the information, or could we reschedule it or have another meeting when we know more about the timelines and the coordinations?
Sure. Let me ask this, Carla, is there a way that we post, is there stuff we can post on our website about this that would give them further information based on the questions and answers that we got from this meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, is there a specific place that I can tell them to look to that we would post that at?
So on the front page of our website, you will, you may or may not have noticed that there is in the carousel, the scroller, you can click on the public meeting. That will take you directly to our public meetings page. If for some reason you don't see it, you can look in our search bar for public meeting. It'll take you to our general public meetings page, and then you can scroll through the public meetings, and any supplemental information, including this video, will be posted there.
Okay. So we'll try to get you a schedule for that northern development that they're in question on, and post that in that information area as well.
Been a question about studies going to be publicly available. I'm not sure what study, if it's the plans or something on the development. Could Mr. I'll probably say this wrong, Cape. Could you clarify for us, please, which study you would like to see? Here we go. Yeah, I haven't gotten an answer to that. This will make sure that this presentation is available and the meeting is available. Mr. Durbin, I believe it's Mr. Says, studies might include the traffic, fire, police. I don't know that we necessarily do studies on fire and police. We could post if there's something on the traffic study. Mm-hmm. We could share that on the website if you'd like.
Yeah, as far as fire and rescue go, we do coordination with fire and rescue through our mobility department for all the projects that we do. So, as far as the study is concerned, I don't think there'd be any study that would impact or that would show impacts to fire and rescue.
Yep. He answered. He does want he was curious about the traffic study, and I think we could post what we have on that as well.
Okay. All right.
So I think Mr. Durbin evidently is close to the project site, and he's concerned about traffic and the emergency services being able to access his house during the construction. Like if there's a fire, the emergency services need to get there, how would that happen?
How would that impact his, response time? I'm guessing is what
Yes.
he,
Mhm.
is what, without having a map up in front of me right now and without talking to emergency services, I don't know. But what we deal with typically when we get to the point where we're talking with emergency services about our road closure is the different emergency services work together in conjunction with each other, whether it is in an incorporated area, whether it's outside in an incorporated area, to, if we had to do a bridge closure for some reason, to cover the area that potentially, if it made it a longer detour for someone, for another jurisdiction to cover for it. So that doesn't happen until further on in design, after we get to almost the bidding time. But like I said, our mobility department usually does that coordination, and then we have a fire and rescue, basically liaison, and police. That emergency responder liaison is his actual title that helps out with that coordination.
Back, you had mentioned earlier that the 120 days is roughly what we think the road closure would be. And Mr. Durbin asked if that included roadway and lane changes. I don't know if that was, I think it would just be on Alton Darby. I think the answer to that is yes, so.
Yeah, and again, we're looking into a potential additional westbound right turn lane on Fetter Road as well. The feasibility of doing that will potentially get incorporated into this project. There's a cost benefit analysis based on the fact that, what will that do to the traffic? How much impact are we getting out of that right-hand turn lane? And whether we build it with this project or not, but all that work would be incorporated into that 120 days. Some things that potentially might not be would be some final construction touches. Construction always lasts a little bit longer than when the road opens back up, which would be things like seeding and mulching, things like that.
Okay, the information that we've been talking about posting, we'll be posting that on the Franklin County Engineer website. So I put that link in the Q&A answer. And then another question was, with the expansion of this bridge to accommodate the bike lanes, do we know if there's any plans and who's responsible for possibly doing that over I-70?
Yeah, that's an ODOT bridge. The plans, I don't believe there's plans for that right now. And that's part of the reason that we're not building it right now. We're only building it to accommodate the potential for future expansion. So that's Ohio Department of Transportation. That is their structure, though it's our roadway that travels over their structure. It's their structure that holds that roadway. And so any of the bridges that travel over top of the interstates are ODOT bridges. So I do not know of plans to widen that at this time. But like I said, what our plans incorporate is what potentially could be there in the future. So one of the things that we don't want to do is do bridge replacements and not consider what the future potentially holds. So this is incorporating that complete streets philosophy.
So that there aren't any open questions at the moment, but we do appreciate all the good questions. Hopefully we've answered them. If you have more, we're happy to be here. Ed, if you are up to it, I'd be happy to. I think it really helps us to have the structured Q&A for a few minutes because everybody kind of has the same question.
Yeah.
Like we get through it, but if you wouldn't mind, I'd be happy to unmute the attendees so that then they have a couple of minutes here to ask us additional questions if they want to.
Yeah, no problem at all.
it just gets a little hard sometimes when we do that if we're talking over each other. So, but I
Right.
think there's so few of us, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem.
No, sounds good, Barb.
So those folks in what the virtual audience, so to speak, I have made it so that you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. We'll do our best to answer. Well, you did a good job answering questions, Ed.
All right, good.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes,
We can hear
It-
you now.
I can
Hi.
hear you.
Is any of this going to affect the rest of Fetter Road? They're not planning on widening the whole Fetter Road or anything, right?
Now, this project specifically is, and just so you know, I'm the bridge design engineer, so this project specifically is for the bridge. What we've considered with the bridge is also what else needs to be done in the vicinity of the bridge. So these lane improvements that are being done out there just in the intersection are being done because of development that's taking place to the north and just trying to anticipate capacity. And again, as I said, widening it in order to accommodate what we think could be potential, pedestrian facilities that come through. But as far as impacts to Fetter Road, the only thing that it could potentially impact is right there at the intersection, putting in a westbound right turn lane.
Because, I've lived out here since the 60s and the traffic has just gotten crazy on Fetter Road. And I was really disappointed when they decided to build 1,000 houses and apartments over on Renner, because all that traffic is going to go to Fetter, Renner, possibly Roberts. And, these
Mhm.
are smaller roads. It's just not fair to people who have been here that have to deal with this. The traffic's horrible. It's loud. They've had speed trailers out here, the sheriff's department, and they've said, yes, they're speeders, but nobody does anything about it. And it's just sad for people that have lived here a long time.
Right. Understood.
Mrs. Bell,
Uh.
you had sent me an email earlier today, or was it late yesterday? I did receive that. I have shared that with our Chief Deputy Fritz Crozier. He has been working on traffic information in the county for quite a while now. So I just haven't gotten a response from him yet on your questions about the traffic on Fetter. So we will get you a written response to that email as well. I just wanted to let you know I did get it.
I appreciate it because it's just, it's not just traffic in general. It's like loud and annoying. And it's like, I think people think this is like a freeway and they can do anything they want. And it's just ridiculous, because when I moved out here, there were like 5 houses on Fetter Road. So and then for them to say we're going to build 1,000 houses and apartments over there, I'm thinking, oh my, are you kidding me? How's it going to, how's all that going to, these roads just can't handle all that, I guess is what I'm saying. And I don't know why they've never built a ramp going off of Fetter, like down Jones Road or down Alton Darby to the freeway. And that way, a lot of those cars wouldn't have to go down Fetter. They could just get on and off the ramp, onto Jones, down, if you go down Jones, or they should build some type of a ramp. We never understood why they never did that to help alleviate some of this traffic.
I would say that, again, hopefully some of those answers can come from an email from our chief deputy. I unfortunately cannot answer them. I'm the bridge guy, so I'm not real good with the traffic stuff. But I do know that, on ramps, off ramps, things that have to do with the interstate do incorporate ODOT into those plans. So they're not just controlled by the county or a municipality potentially, that if it was an incorporated area, but they do involve ODOT as well. But like Barb said, hopefully Fritz can get you a couple answers there.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Hey, Ed,
Yeah.
Mr. Durbin looks like he unmuted himself and he had sent a question in the Q&A. He is at the southwest corner of Alton, Darby, and Fetter at 1048. He says that he has stakes in his yard. Have we had that done lately, or is that something else?
Probably, yeah, it was probably for survey, doing surveying they probably did it once during preliminary engineering, and then we were also doing, looking into impacts to do that westbound right turn lane, and potentially they had survey out there again. I'm not positive about that, but I'm guessing that's probably what the stakes are there for. Did he say how long have they been there, Mr. Durbin?
Well, now I'm referring to the stakes that were just put in within the last couple of weeks. Basically, that is property my nephew farmed for probably 20 years. I was born here at the corner of Alton, Darby, and Fetter
Okay.
back in 1953. My dad bought the property back in 1943. So I've been here for a long time, seen a lot of things happen. But across the street, Coba owns that property, and they used to have it farmed by my nephew, then Steve Weber, and then they let it go into high weeds, probably 14-foot weeds, till it was cropped down about 2 weeks ago, and then I saw stakes go up. But I didn't have any notice of this, wondered why that. I assumed the property had been sold, but apparently it was just not farmed because of this project. But I have had a lot of county work around here. I've never had good success in all that reformation and seeding when they go through my ditches and that type of thing. And I never see the scope of the project stay within its limits. And now here I am at the corner with this eminent change to allow this additional housing. And it's very frustrating because it means reseeding, means reworking things just very frequently. You understand now, because as development comes along, you have fiber optic lines and they have to mark and they have to readjust, and then you have water lines, sanitary lines, and all those go through my ditches, which are right in my area. And the county, I think, is supposed to clean that up, but I don't. All of my county property along my perimeter I take care of, so it's a big concern for me. It's very important for us to kind of understand what's going on and understand the scope of it. And in recent times, as been previously addressed, we can hardly get out of our property because Fetter Road is under severe construction. Well, we can go to rent. No, renter's closed. Well, now it's open, but it's under severe construction. And we go down, wherever we go, there's construction. So I hope you'll coordinate. And so often your answer has been, I haven't checked into that yet. We're going to do this project. Well, I hope you will be very careful and not shut down this road and then shut down Fetter Road. And then because it's happening too often. We need to slow down a little bit and understand that there are a lot of residents already here. I know we want these thousands and thousands to come. That's beautiful. But we need to recognize some of us have lived here for a time, and we need to get to and from and safe and have an honest repair of our property. And I've never had good, honest repair of my property as you do work in the right of ways. And so I just call you to a higher standard.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Durbin, and I'm sorry to hear that too. Our intent, I know, is that when we come through an area to do construction, and I can speak from my projects myself, for bridge projects that we've done, is the intent is to leave the project in better condition than we started in. And so if that hasn't happened for you, I do apologize for it, and would like to, submit that we would try to hold ourselves to a higher standard than that for sure. So your comments for sure will be taken into account as far as planning, when we do the construction, what the detour will look like, and other construction that's taking place in the area.
Thank you.
Mr. Durbin, this is Carla Marable, the Director of Communications. I just want to also piggyback on one thing that Ed said. And this is one thing that we try to communicate effectively, and we don't always convey the point that we want, is that a lot of times when there is construction in the area, because you mentioned housing development and residential construction that's happening, people assume that it is the county. Unfortunately, it is a lot of times private developers doing that work. And so we don't have ultimate control on if they stay within their limits. We try to hold them accountable the best that we can. But I just want you to have faith that, as Ed mentioned, in the county infrastructure projects, there are guidelines that we have to maintain when it comes to staying within the boundaries and basically just being respectful of our residents' property. If you find that some of those other developers, those private developers, are not adhering to some of the construction limits and being respectful, even though it may not be our direct responsibility, feel free to reach out to our office and we may be able to provide some assistance in those areas.
All right. And I will tell you that I've had contractors come through with, I have like 3 lines of fiber optic through my ditch, et cetera. And as I approach them and they're destroying things and they're going time after time, I express to them that this is going on too much, and there is no coordination. There's too much going on at one time, and you know, fiber optic, sanitary lines, electric underground, electric poles. So I at the corner of Alton, Darby, and Federal Road am just daily dealing with this. And now 120 days that I can't go down Alton, Darby, that I used to drive cattle down that road. And it's like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, no problem. It has to be done. And 120 days is no big deal. But I don't see sufficient coordination. And I understand what you're saying. There's too many people to coordinate with. And every time I deal with AEP, it's like, it's not us. It is our subcontractor who's doing that. We don't control exactly what our arborist does or what our diggers do or what our, sometimes someone's got to take control and keep a project under control, keep it clean, keep it sharp, keep it under control and move on, and don't do 3 of them in one block where the whole block cannot have a good traffic flow. So these are the things I'm hearing nice bridge, gonna be a bridge, gonna be a beautiful bridge, gonna be able to walk across, gonna be able to ride a bike across it. That's all fine, but please coordinate. Please coordinate. We're trying, you know, I understand we got to provide for the future, but we also have to live. So let's have some concern, and that's my expression.
Mr. Durbin, can I ask you, you said you're located, where exactly are you located in the vicinity of the
I'm
intersection?
located at 1048 Alton Darby Creek Road. That would be the southeast corner of Alton Darby and Federal Road. It's the only house at that corner, quite frankly.
Okay.
Where you're building the bridge is where Dick Kellogg used to live, and just south of Central Ohio Breeding Association.
Mhm.
And I'm just, yeah, probably 50 yards from there.
Okay.
But if you would just come that corner and just look around at all the high posts that are across Federal Road and all the things that have happened, the number of fiber optic lines that have gone through there, and even still, look at the fiber optic line access points and look at how they're crooked and they're ugly and then look at the gas line things that right through there. It's like no one has any regard. So when you come in with a new project, it's like, what are your concerns? Well, my concerns are, oh my gosh, there is such a mess already. Please don't add to it.
Understood.
Yeah, thank you.
I do
I will go
understand.
on. If this were the first time, but this is probably 5 times a year I have these types of issues at the corner of Alton, Darby, and Federal Road between the utilities and the county.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Mr. Durbin. As a matter of fact, my parents, I had bought their house here on Feder. They passed away, but my parents bought this land from Mr. Durbin's family. So I totally agree with what he's saying because he's right. He's 100% right. And as far as that construction over there on Renner, I've been seeing so many. I think they go down Renner and they drop off their dirt or concrete, and then they come back Feder this way on Feder. I'm like, why are we having to deal with that when it's not even on our street? So now we're getting double the traffic because all these dump trucks and what have you are dumping their stuff and then coming to, and I just don't think that's fair. But I totally agree with what Mr. Durbin said because he's right. It's ugly. They don't fix what they did. They just put in this fiber thing. I have this big ugly steel plate in my front yard. It's just been a nightmare, and it's like nobody cares. So I totally agree with him.
Ms. Bell, you're on Feder? Where are you on Feder?
6269.
In relation to in relation to this project, which direction are you?
I'm going east.
Okay.
If you're standing at the golf course, I'm east on
Okay.
Fed.
Okay.
And like he said, the detours, oh my gosh, for people coming from the west, it would be a nightmare to have that closed that long, but
Right.
it's going to be very hard.
I understand. And, the hope would be that it would be done in less time than that. I don't like to promise less time because, again, we're in pretty preliminary stages of engineering right now. But just, I want to just reiterate the reasoning behind the full closure, because bridges can be constructed under part width construction. They can be constructed that way. Typically what we find is that it just takes a lot longer to construct. And the impacts to the public typically are worse because you're under construction for a very long time rather than, I don't know, for lack of a better term, ripping the Band-Aid off and getting it over with quickly. Not to mention it is, there is a cost. There's a cost associated with that, and there is an end result product that's associated with that too. Not to mention safety. So I know that that's a tough pill to swallow, is a road closure, and people definitely don't like to deal with that. In my experience, they've appreciated dealing with that more than they've appreciated dealing with construction for a longer period of time. I guess I'll offer that. I wouldn't be replacing the bridge if it didn't need to be replaced. So I'm hoping that with this project, and really do appreciate the comments and want to kind of let you know that it's not falling on deaf ears, and want you guys to know that during the process, if there are questions and you want updates, please reach out to the county engineer's office. And during construction, I hope that these aren't things that, come to the forefront. I'm hoping that they don't even, I can't say that they won't exist, because there's always going to be a significant amount of burden on the people who live around a construction zone or have to go through are detoured. But we'll make accommodations to try to do it in a way that, as I said before, will leave your property in a better condition than when we got there.
Thank you.
Barb, is there anything else in the chat? I see there's something in the chat. I'm not sure if that was specifically for me.
Yeah, was just something on our side. There's
Okay.
nothing else in the question and answer box.
Okay. Okay.
No, I don't think you had any more updates, or we'd be happy to answer any additional questions. I think we'll probably keep the webinar open until around 7, just in case somebody happened to log on, they got the time wrong or something, but I think unless there's additional questions, we can wrap it up. What do you think, Ed?
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. I'm willing to stay on until 7 in case somebody logs in at the end too. It's not a problem.
Okay. We do appreciate everybody coming though, that's for sure. And letting us know your concerns and questions. Well, I think we've hit 7 o'clock. If we're in agreement, I think we can close out this session.
Okay.
Everybody, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And we do appreciate everybody coming, and if you have additional questions, I think you can contact us at the county.